was talking about how, she wishes she saw more stories about young couples in their early 20s sharing what it's like to be married and how they're like surviving in their marriage, because you don't see that because most people are getting married in their 30s. So people who do want to be married in their 20s, like they don't see examples of it anymore. And it's so bizarre because it's such a shift.
Well, I think they're so busy living it, like they don't get the chance to tell the story, right? And because everything is so fresh, there's so many firsts that happen. And like, as a priest, to kind of get to look over the fence and watch them, grow and develop in their young marriage, it's so amazing to hear them talk about how they're the beautiful parts, so how certain things are just absolutely seamless and wonderful and perfect. And then there's like the struggle. It's like he put the cups in the wrong cabinet again, and all these little things. But like, and then there's like more serious things, whether health issues or like, the struggle. But like when they're turning to God, and when they have this God-centered marriage and this God-centered relationship, how despite whatever the problem is, big or small, how they have peace at the end of every day because they're coming together as a husband and wife with God together. And like, I remember one wife saying to me that she always felt secured and cherished because her husband was more concerned about her soul than he was about anything else. And like, this wave of peace comes over her. And so I think that having that God-centered marriage is really the key of these young marriages. And so it kind of goes back to that point we were talking about earlier, is that see the marriage you want and then start living it today. And so the question for each, young person on campus today who's thinking about marriage, how do I live that God-centered life today? So when I meet that spouse of my dreams, it just seamlessly integrates.
Oh, you had said you wanted to talk about dads and like thinking about being a dad as a young man. What is that?
So,
what do you mean
I think it goes back to our conversation earlier where we were talking about like women like think 20, 30 steps ahead where men, we just deal with things as they come up. And so I think that's like one of the questions for men, specifically single men who are discerning that vocation of matrimony, for them to have in mind what kind of dad they want to be. What kind of a husband they want to be. And if a man today who is single, who is desiring to have a holy matrimony and to be that man of God to his wife, like make a list. Like if a man were to make a list today of what are the things what makes a great husband, right? What makes a great Christian father? And for him to just embody those principles today and start living those and striving to be those things today. Can you imagine what kind of husband that guy's going to be once he gets married and what kind of dad he's going to be when those kids come?
Yeah. Well, we were talking to our student intern in studio, and he got 2 books about masculinity, and he read each of those books, and he said one was exactly what he thought a man should be, and the other was like a frat bro saying like, this is what you got to do to be a man kind of thing. And he just totally was like, this is nothing. Yeah. So how do you think men can discern making that list if they're getting some of these other things thrown at them from the culture or wherever?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to being rooted in our faith, right? You have, if you want secular results, do secular things.
Right.
If you want godly results, do godly things. And I think that's the whole thing about matrimony is that people will come to a priest and say, listen, you're a celibate man. What do you know about marriage? And I can say, I honestly know nothing about what it means to be married to another person, but I do know a lot about God's plan for marriage. And I do know a lot about what the secular society says about marriage. And when you look at those who live a secular marriage, you can see the trail of disaster that it ultimately leads to, right? But those who live godly marriages and live from those principles of what Christ has given us in holy matrimony, then you see fruitfulness, forgiveness, growth, peace, love, joy, even in the midst of the greatest trials and struggles.
Yeah.
I think the husband of the year is a good friend of mine, Travis, whose wife was dying with cancer. And he would carry her up and down the stairs every day. He would bathe her. He would comb her hair. He would take complete care of her. And he said that he treasured these last moments of their marriage together more than all the other ones because he got to love her and give completely to her. And I'm like, that's a real man. That's authentic masculinity, service and selflessness.